Hey, it's a real American Brian, and we have Shipwreck and Johnny with us. We're both going to dive into Shipwreck, rip him open, and talk all about him. Hang around and find out what we think.
Yo, Joe. Talking comics, here's your host. It's a real American Brian.
Johnny, welcome back to the show.
Hello, Brian. Call me GI Cup of Joe today. It is an early recording day, and you know what? I'm thinking about, my old days as a sailor, and those early mornings, talking to little buddy on my shoulder over here, and just kind of living the life. And I think that's going to be a good discussion today, especially with our friend Shipwreck.
Indeed. So we're going to talk about the new classified series release of Shipwreck and everything that there is to talk about there. His little friend and all of his accessories. He doesn't come with this cool little bike in the background, though.
That was not in the box.
No. All right. So before we get into him, though, let's talk about Shipwreck.
Yes.
So I opened up my cool order of battle here to discuss Shipwreck. Shipwreck is your quintessential sailor. He can splice a line, fry powdered eggs in a tooth of a gale, and eat them. Tell taller tales than a Senate Appropriations Committee, and take a 3-day liberty and fill Greenland and come back smiling.
Pretty amazing.
I guess.
All in a day's work. And, as a kid, I didn't realize, I don't know if you had this thing when you were collecting toys as a young lad, but their real names, most of the time I didn't really care about it. It didn't even register with me. There was maybe a handful that did. Like I knew Duke's real name as a kid, but I did not realize Shipwreck was a Hispanic gentleman. I had no idea. Hector Delgado.
Yeah. There were also very few that I actually cared about the real name of as a kid too.
Yeah.
It was kind of weird. But.
Did you remember? So did you know? Well, I don't know. I mean, did you remember or know that his name is Hector Delgado or no?
I had no idea. No.
Okay. It sounds like they just made it up, not like modern day.
So one of the things with Shipwreck, I never saw. I don't want to talk poorly about Mr. Wreck here, but I never saw him as the great soldier some of the other Joes were. He was always kind of like a side character. One of the reasons I think was because I never really had any like water combats as a kid. Like I didn't really care about that stuff.
Wow, see, I was all about water combats as a kid. Here's the thing. I can't swim. I'm a horrible swimmer. I hate the beach. I hate pools. I hate all that stuff. But as a kid, I don't know, maybe I thought one day I was going to get into it, but I loved everything water. My favorite vehicles, some of my favorite vehicles were like, the whale for the Joes and the water moccasin for Cobra, and, having Torpedo and Shipwreck and Cobra Eel and all of these Copperhead, all these amazing water-based guys. And I just thought it was really cool. So Shipwreck was one of my childhood favorites. And, as I mentioned in other episodes about, getting the flag, having Shipwreck part of that, it was almost like that was like fulfilling the boyhood dream of the full sea experience,
Yeah, that makes sense. Like if you had the flag, or even if you had a whale, I think I could see Shipwreck being played with a lot more often. Yeah. And I do like the characters like snarky attitude in the cartoon.
Snarky in the cartoon. It's just as a kid too, because having a parrot as well. It's just there's things that as a kid you can just you might appreciate more than a typical combat oriented character. But yeah, having the toy was great. I think I mentioned in another episode that my dog chewed up his arm. My mom made a sling for my Shipwreck. I mean, he's the only figure I ever had that had battle damage. And it was, we actually dressed his wounds and everything. It was just a great, so Shipwreck for me was a bit, when I heard it was coming out for Classified, that was beyond automatic yes, because I knew it was such an important character for me. Although as important as he was, I didn't know his name. But.
I think the reason that it was an automatic for me was really only because they went with the full classic styling of the figure.
Good point.
Like if they had done like an updated version, I don't know if it would have been automatic for me.
Really good point. The first couple waves or whatever you want to call it, there were some questionable choices, but once they went to we're just going to make the old ones big and more detailed mentality, like there's been way more auto buys. And in fact, like I'm sure a lot of people watching right now, it's if all these figures that have been out have all been released at the same time, you wouldn't have bought some of the early ones. You just would have skipped them. But we didn't know. When you and I started collecting things and talking about them, we thought it was going to be 6 figures and that was it. And it was just like, if the movie's good, maybe, that kind of stuff. But essentially, we didn't know they were going to re-release all of these childhood classic styles like an original Shipwreck. So it's amazing to have that.
No, that's an excellent point. I've definitely got to the point where I have a limited amount of display space that I want to have Joe's in. So I've gotten to the point where I like to rotate through and make it look different all the time. But there's some that I will take out that aren't on display, and it's a lot of those those early classified ones, and a lot of times they don't make it back into the rotation that often. Like they stay kind of tucked away.
Yeah, it's I will say the Duke still holds up a little bit for me. It could have been better, but the Scarlet's gone, the original Roblox gone. I don't have those figures anymore. They're just I've upgraded into other things or gotten rid of it. It's just there's something about the last year's worth of figures that are just so much better. And we talked about it on our best figure ones with Spirit and these other ones. So it's completely understandable about your rotation and what makes it in.
All right, well, let's get into the figure here. I think we've talked about Mr. Mr. Delgado. I guess we've learned enough. Right. So it comes with some cool accessories. I really like the guns that it comes with, keeping the sailor motif there, and of course it comes with Polly. I mean, if he didn't, I'd be upset.
Well, you would go to like Hobby Lobby and buy your own Polly and glue it to his arm, I'm sure.
Yeah, and it would never be the right scale, and I would always be annoyed. And
that's actually kind of funnier to have like a giant parrot.
But watch this. Through the magic of this, watch me open Shipwreck here.
Okay.
Bam! Look at that.
What happened to your like?
Not this time. Okay. I'm trying something new here. So we have him in his cool little coffin. He comes in, but I do like that they have the artwork on the back of there.
Yeah, are you saving those or no?
No.
Okay. I think I can see why a lot of people would. I don't, but I can see why, because it is kind of cool, because if you line them all up, it would be a really cool background.
Yeah, one of the things I do save, though, is the little weapons containers.
Yeah.
Because I like putting those in behind my figures.
Those are cool. I think if I have not saved mine, if I thought about if they were a little more heavy duty, I think I would have used them, maybe literally stored weapons in them. But I can see why you're saving those too.
Yeah, I just build I stack them up and make little backgrounds.
And also, I appreciate you bringing up the positive aspects of the new packaging. You don't hear about a lot of that. You hear what happened to the window, and it's like, you know what? I mean, I'm not Mr. Environment, but the whole thing is recyclable now. It wasn't before. So
yeah, I mean, we could talk about that before we get into Shipwreck a little bit too. I really like the new packaging. The only issue I have with not having a window is if I were to buy something at a store, because I don't trust the general public anymore with people returning crap and I don't know what's in there.
Yeah.
But all the G.I. Joe classified, I'm afraid I'm never going to find them in the store, so I'm ordering them all off Pulse anyway. So
I still go to toy aisles, and I'm always disappointed anyway. Yeah. So it's kind of a moot point in a weird way. I mean, I could see if a figure had a flaw. Sometimes hair might have paint that goes a little on the face or whatever. This line's been great with that. It's not really been an issue, but I could see where that's been a gripe, to not be able to see what you're going to get in there. Your point's probably a more realistic one of the, or maybe a more, I don't know, more for me, a more pressing one about what's going to be in the box. I will say, and I do this for all figures that I buy in stores. And this is super anal of me, but I think, toy collectors, isn't that what we all are to an extent about different things? I literally look at the tape on the box and it's like, if it looks like this is original tape, it wasn't I'm like, it's fine. But there have been times where I've seen what looks like a tape over a tape. And I'm thinking it could have been, just coming loose and the store or the factory put another one, but it also could have been a return. And so I just basically look at it and I'm like, this looks untampered with.
Yeah. So in general, I don't mind the windowless packaging. One of the other things I do wish they would do though is have just like one true picture of what the figure looks like. Because some of the
Oh,
packaging
yeah.
you get like the original, um, I don't know, forget, I'm drawing a blank, but like the original image that they've created, the 3D render. That's what I was
Yeah.
thinking of.
Oh, render. Yeah. Okay.
And it's going to be different than the actual. Like, I just want like one real picture of
Yeah.
what's inside there. Like,
That's a good point. They should have probably put a little box like
yeah.
somewhere popping up. I
And
didn't
sometimes
realize
they
it
do,
wasn't.
but not always.
Yeah.
All right, but here we have Shipwreck. One of the fun things right away that, well, I don't know if it's fun. I think it's kind of useless, but so they gave the option of having him without his hat by giving you a little hairpiece.
So let me ask you first. Okay, Brian, put yours on. Put the regular hair on.
Regular hair on,
Regular hair on. Does it snap or is it poofed up like a wig?
both. It snapped, but
Okay.
it still sticks up a little bit too high.
Mine's
But
mine's worse than that. In fact, I don't have the hairpiece handy at the time, but mine wouldn't even really stay on very well at all. I'm like, well, good thing I'm never going to use that.
right. I mean, this will go in my box of accessories and never ever be used.
In case a
Um,
baldy needs hair, otherwise it's going to be just sitting there. It's always good to have a wig lying around, though, just to have. You never know.
so I appreciate that they gave us that option. I don't know who wants Shipwreck without the hat. It would have been nice to have, I don't know, some other accessory rather than hair in
Yeah,
there.
good point.
But overall, I think this figure's fantastic. You have the cool detailing of the tattoos on each arm
Mhm.
and some chest hair poking out there. I really, one of the things I guess I wasn't really expecting, but the ropes I think are super cool and the way
Yeah,
that they do those. Um,
ropes are cool, and the fact that the rope and his wrist both have a hole for poly, so you can
yeah,
choose to go poly on the ropes or on the wrist.
and him being on the ropes saves you from having a hole in the shoulder or some like weird thing up there too,
Yeah,
which is really cool.
yeah, really cool. I actually also like this is the first figure that's got like real pants, like bell bottomy kind of pants. And so I was interested to know how they're going to do that because sometimes your foot movement is a little restricted when you
Yeah,
have longer pants. But he stands up straight on his own. I mean, I still use stands, but I actually wouldn't need a stand with him if I wanted to skip it. He wouldn't need one.
I have my magnets on mine already, so
Oh,
he's ready.
nice, very cool.
But yeah, so you're mentioning like his pants and stuff being so when I first opened him up, the first thing I thought, I don't know why I thought this, I was like, man, if you wanted to make like a civilian for the line, you could do a simple head swap on this and maybe a little paint, and you just
Yeah,
have, you know, whoever, because
yeah.
even like the holsters and stuff, none of it's sculpted on, so you could remove all those, and you just have a guy in jeans and a shirt.
Yeah, yeah, good point. This does look like. I mean, I will say, never forget Shipwreck showing the patch on his chest there. He's
Yeah, for sure.
because what's funny is all the other officer type bodies I think are all the same. Duke and Flint and Spirit, and they have the buttoned up shirt. This one is the same type of shirt, sleeves rolled up, but it is different because of the chest hair in there.
Yeah, and something I'm not too good at. I know a lot of the other YouTube channels are much better at this, is knowing where parts have been reused. Like I don't know. I don't pay attention to that as much. Perhaps you do, but to me, just like offhand, I think all these are original parts. Except,
It probably. I mean, it probably. I mean, I'm sure somebody could dispute it, but I kind of here's my kind of take with that. I'll say an overall blanket statement of first, I don't really care until I care. In other words, if I don't really care, but if it's completely over the top noticeable of that's just a repaint, it could be a little annoying. But like in the case of Spirit, there's so much stuff on that body and accessories and everything. And of course, Spirit is very unique looking. It doesn't look like that kind of body, but you're right about Shipwreck. This could also be, is this almost like maybe even like a Chuckles kind of body? It could be because it's got pants and
um,
a shirt, or I'm not really sure that Comic
it
Con.
definitely could be. I don't know what they used for the base for, because that was they have a Chuckles for the San Diego Comic Con exclusive. I don't know if
Yeah.
they used this as a base for it or not. I always imagined Chuckles as being like a bigger chested guy, but I
Yeah,
don't know if
kind of
that's how
like
you
yeah,
ended up in line.
a little bigger, a little more, a little more jolly, larger fellow. Shipwreck, I think, is great. I actually, the amount of accessories are perfect for me. I generally, I know most people will keep all the same accessories on every model, or every figure. I actually sometimes swap out like holsters and weapons here and there just to my liking, depending on, what I think fits better or looks better. But in the case of Shipwreck, everything is really for him.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's all sailor related gear. So everything I have is going to be exactly, stock.
Yeah, and I'm a lot of times what I'll do, because I have my displays and I find like one way that I like my stuff posed a lot of times, and I get lazy, and that's just the way he's going to be posed forever. They
Yeah.
become statues. Um, and a lot of times, I guess, I'll go through the accessories and I think they're all cool, but because they don't go with my display, they'll just get stored away.
Yeah.
Some of them. The only one that's Shipwreck, I mean, I love all of his accessories. The only thing, like obviously the hair is never going to be displayed. The
Right.
only other thing I would consider not displaying is like the hook thing.
Yeah. So I put it
Otherwise,
on.
he's gonna have everything all the time.
Yeah. So I put it on. What's funny? And on a similar note, so if I had only one gripe really about, the classified line is that they always have trigger fingers instead of grip hands at all
Yeah.
times. And so, or even the option of having a fist would be nice, or a straight hand, because if you always have, I don't know if you can see my screen here, but if you always have a trigger hand, you want to do something with that hand. So in this case, he's kind of reaching for it. I don't know why he would reach for it at that moment, but what else am I going to do with them? I have some that are like tipping the cap or something.
Yeah.
There's, because you run out of things to do with that other hand, because you don't want every figure to have two weapons in every hand. We don't always have that, So I have some that have a knife and a gun and that kind of thing. But in this case, I feel like he should be doing something. I guess he could pet Polly. Maybe you can do that.
Yeah,
Like
sure.
there. Don't repeat that.
Try
Don't
to
repeat
feed
that. That was
Polly
behind closed
something.
doors.
Yeah, but you mentioned like tipping the hat. My cover girl, she's like shading her eyes,
Yeah.
and that's just like her pose.
My Dusty's taken off his helmet a little bit, kind of like, it's a hot one.
So overall, I'm very happy with Shipwreck. It sounds like you are as well.
Extremely happy. If we did another best of video, I might have all different answers. I mean, I'm looking at my shelf behind me right now, and this is top 5.
Well, and I will agree with that. And I started out the video saying I wasn't really a big Shipwreck fan, but I enjoy the character, particularly in the cartoon. But this figure is so cool that I think it would be in my top 5 as well.
Yeah, very nice. I think more and more. It's so much character in it, not just the nostalgia, but even somebody new getting into these kind of things. You want to make sure that every figure has what feels like a story built in, and you can, how do you not have that? It looks like it can be. It's exactly like old school GI Joe figures, where it was every figure was its own, essentially his own captain of his own thing. In a way, so he is the sailor.
Yeah,
it looks great.
Yeah, I'm very happy with it. So before we leave, though, I wanted to talk about one of the other announcements of a figure that's coming out. So they've been putting out a few announcements and teases and stuff leading up to San Diego Comic-Con, I think. But I wanted to get your thoughts while you were here on the Crimson Alley Viper.
Yeah, this will be a pass for me. Looks cool, but I'm, when it comes to Cobra, I like my characters. I like my Cobra characters, but then I don't really. I'm not going to pick all of the various unnamed just grunts in a sense to get them. So I got a couple Vipers and just the original, but I don't really I don't have the other Alley Viper. I'd rather have Cobra Troopers or Cobra Infantry as my kind of just bad guys that can easily be killed. So while it looks cool, it's kind of got a little Deadpool look to it. It'll be a pass for me.
Yeah, it's going to be a pass for me as well for a couple different reasons. One, I don't have the other Alley Vipers. I didn't go that route with my troop building. I focused on the bats. And the second reason is I kind of really don't like them doing crimson versions of other stuff. I think the crimson guard should be the only like crimson. I don't really like the repaints for the crimson stuff.
Do you think it? I mean, I agree with you. Do you think there's some people though that would love just an all crimson-ish army? So it's you have CGs and Crimson Bats and Crimson Viper, just to have them all basically all red bad guys.
Yeah, I'm sure there are people that like that, but just not me. Which is great that this line is so diverse that you can choose to say, "Hey, I'm not going to go that route, but I still want all this other stuff." And
Listen, I've spent so much money on this stuff. The ability to pass on some is awesome.
yeah, it's almost kind of relieving when you see one like,
Oh my
"Oh, I
god,
need that one."
it really is. Oh, what was the other Viper that came out with like the brain exposed that just came out?
The Toxic Viper.
I was just like, oh, I'm so glad I don't want it because I have so many. I'm thankful of the figures I have, but I'm not a completist. I don't need to have everyone. I already have way too many than what I had originally thought about. So the ability to have ones come out to say, yes, yes, no, yes, yes, no, I think is fine for me.
Yeah. So we're both going to pass on the Cobra Crimson Alley Viper, but if you think we're crazy, go ahead and comment down below and tell us how great it is. I don't think you're going to change my mind, but I'll still talk to you about it.
Well, if somebody sends the channel a figure, you'll accept it.
Sure, I'll accept. Maybe I'll do it as a giveaway though, instead of like keeping it for myself.
Oh, that's nice of you. Well, so you're saying send two?
No,
one for you, one for the giveaway. I get it.
Yeah, sure.
And then one to display, one to keep in box, one just in case, one to put in a case.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that is us discussing Shipwreck. We have a couple more figures that we're going to be discussing very soon, so stick around on the channel, subscribe if you haven't. We're going to be talking about rock and roll next, I believe. So if you haven't seen the awesome rock and roll figure with some very cool things to discuss, hang around and watch that video. But thanks for being on, Johnny, and I can't wait to talk about rock and roll with you.
You got it.
So long from Brian. Until next time, same Brian time, same Brian channel.